It is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, and it's 2:10, and we're here to discuss the reason to support keeping West Fork Pine Creek an open road as public access. I have a few rules to go over before we start this meeting. Mr. Loutzenhiser called the meeting to discuss the Pine Creek Road as an open public access. The board has not been tasked with vacating, abandoning, or revalidation of this right of way. So the board will not be making any decisions, but we're here just to listen. Public meetings are posted to YouTube, and we would ask that you be courteous of your language so it doesn't interfere with our family viewers. All questions and comments should be addressed to the board. We shouldn't be addressing anybody else but us. This is a public meeting and it should not be used to belittle or attack or single out anybody. Like I said, address your questions and your answers to the board. We have a sign-in sheet that went around, and it looks like we have Mr. Loutzenhiser for support. Do you have anybody else there? No? Okay. Mr. Loutzenhiser called this meeting, so he'll be allowed to speak first, and then we will determine the allotted time for the rest of the public. I know I have folks here that may disagree, but you can also come in and call a meeting, so we'll see what how far we get, and then we'll go from there. So I will turn it over to Mr. Loutzenhiser. Is that how you say your name? I'm sorry. Loutzenhiser?
Loutzenhiser.
Loutzenhiser, okay.
Could you guys spread that map out here?
Yeah.
This will just be for reference. I have some. I was told to bring 5 copies. Okay. This is for you guys.
Okay.
So there's a lot of misconception and a lot of different rumors and opinions and that kind of thing. And I'd like to just bring some information through public documents that talks about the history of the West Fork Pine Creek Trail, and also, of course, with the roller coaster and how we got to where we are now. This is the RMP. I have several pages that I have out of this book. It is online. Then I do have documentation out of the BLM handbook. And then some FOIA stuff that I got from the federal government. And then some mapping information. So this will take us a little while to get through.
Okay.
About 25 minutes.
Okay.
I can go through it all.
That's
you
fine.
can ask questions.
Okay.
Or if you prefer, however you want.
Yeah, go ahead and go through it. Just go ahead and present what you wanted to present, and then we'll ask questions and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Okay.
And thank you for visiting me today.
Okay. You bet.
As we know, the West Fork Pine Creek Road has been there for well over 100 years. And it was the main access to public land until the mid-90s. First page here is from a previous EA from the BLM when they recognized that the West Fork Pine Creek Road was deteriorating in a way that they just felt it would be better to find a different option that allowed for logging trucks and that kind of commercial use. So that's when they opted to go through the create the lane place option. And that was happening in 1999 there. Now, shortly after that, going to the next page. Next pages. You'll find this getting together. This is the easement agreement that was established between the Avery family and BLM. A allowing the BLM to establish this road access across their property.
You know, is this the lower
This
road?
will be the upper road,
Okay.
right? A couple things about this easement, and it you know, is an important piece of this discussion. Is if you notice, if you go to the page here, I have it first highlighted. You know, it says non-motorized travel only. Good. Okay. And then on the next page, it talks about, you know, the area being closed for the big game hunting season, which essentially makes it extremely difficult for most people to access public land. It's several miles to get to public land to be able to hunt and that kind of thing through the land-ways access. And again, it also talks about non-motorized use of the road as well. Now, management hasn't quite followed that perspective throughout the years. And Joe's, you know, he talks about how he's allowed people to travel there with a motorized vehicle, you know, during the off season of hunting. People, you know, the public shouldn't have to depend on a landowner to access public land. So, moving on to 2010, you'll find this is a printout of an email. This is from Brian White. He was the outdoor rec planner from 2006 to 2010 for BLM, the Correlated Field Office. This is where he went through the process of establishing the West Fork Pine Creek Trail. And in that, we created the roller coaster section with obstacles and that kind of thing to offer a fun experience for technical driving. And I can send you guys the actual email if you'd like. It's no big deal. I can easily get to you. And then that talks about he went through the categorical exclusion. For some reason, BLM cannot provide that categorical exclusion. But he does know, working with the NIT North Idaho Trailblazers members, we have maintained and created and maintained this trail.
Excuse me. Now, is he talking about the lower road?
Correct.
And not the roller coaster?
Not just roller coaster. It's the West Fork Pine Creek Trail, which in this next piece identifies that.
Okay.
Okay. So in this next piece, it's stapled together for you. We're going to reference the West Fork Pine Creek Trail. And I'll have that for you there to easily find it. This is a letter from Eric Thompson to Mark Hildesheim of IDPR, Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation. Eric Thompson was the field manager at the time. And so he was basically in charge of whatever happens, you know, in regards to the BLM lands management in this district. He notes that the West Fork Pine Creek is a commonly used recreational area, and so they decided to identify the West Fork Pine Creek Trail, which is a primitive road. This is important to note, primitive road on this. And as you read it, you'll finally talk about typical Jeep users having a challenging technical experience. Now, with that, it identifies there in this that the floodplain of Pine Creek. Now, the roller coaster is not on Pine Creek. It is not anywhere near a floodplain. The only section that is the lower section that goes along the creek and then turns and goes up to the roller coaster, which the closest point of the roller coaster section, 50 yards to the creek, maybe more in the ballpark of 100, most of it. It's quite a ways from the creek in fashion. something that I could just everyone know that. And then there's some pictures there of the different Kelly humps in the road, and that talks about, you know, when they decided to stop using this road, they put in like, Bob Jutla knew the exact number because he was there when this all happened. And I want to say he said something like 63. And that was on the upper section. That was not on the lower section because, you know, and I'll address this in some documents. The Colusa Creek Road was designated as an open road, and that access was supposed to stay open. That's why they didn't Kelly hump anything on that lower section. And then again on that third page, they note the West Fork Pine Creek Trail. They're not saying roller coaster. They're not saying access through by noise. They're saying West Fork Pine Creek Trail. Motorized access to BLM public lands in the Pine Creek area. And of course, you guys are welcome to read the whole thing. You know, those are some of the highlights in those in that letter from Eric Thompson to IDPR. And what he's doing is thanking them for working with them to get funds through the state OHV registration fund to develop this trail. Now, I want to go back a little bit to the CX in this. The state does not just give money away without having proper documentation. I am the four-wheel drive representative on the Recreational Trails Committee for the state of Idaho, and I score many grants every year. Go to Boise, have a meeting, talk about it, and then that goes from which I'm part of the committee, and then that goes to the board later in the year. They look at everything, and typically they'll go with what we say. But then it goes to the federal highways for final approval. So to get funds from the state is not a, hey, can I have some money to do this? It's a process. So there was a CX, but for some reason BLM will not fork over.
And what was the CX again?
Categorical exclusion. So the next section here, or the next pages, it just kind of talks about a weekly report from Brian White on the progress of what was happening. Again, referencing volunteers donated about 126 hours, which was the North South Trailblazers, to work with BLM and IDPR. For general public access, yet still provides technically challenging areas for skilled drivers. That was the whole intent of this trail. And then some pictures in that report of this is actually a state piece of equipment. It's a Sutter 480. And you can see him creating a lot of the challenges that are on the trail.
And that's the roller coaster, right? Is he working on, or is he?
He is currently working on the roller coaster section. That is true.
Is he creating Kelly humps?
They were already there. This is when they decided to. So what the idea was. They wanted to take and say, okay, people are using the trail. We want to make it so that the technical challenge is still there for the Jeep users. It works for UTVs and dirt bikes and so forth, small use. But they wanted to make it so that there was a bypass through in case of emergency situation. Really, that's what it was. But anybody that is driving a four-wheel drive can drive through here. And we've always kept it with that spec. We've always had a bypass around all challenge obstacles.
Okay.
So, And again, you can see some more pictures of the state operator running that piece of equipment. And the next page is just simply talking, an email discussing how things are going to lay out, how to get to, where you're going and that kind of stuff. But Bob apparently was the operator on that project. Last page, this next page, again, just want to know West Fork Trail Improvement Project, June 9th to 2010, or June 2nd, 9th to 2010. Brian White, again, is the coordinator, and it just discusses some of the things, volunteer work description and safety considerations. Now, a lot of people have said that the North Isle Trailblazers never had permission, didn't do it, within the proper way or whatever. This next page here is a volunteer agreement between the North Isle Trailblazers and BLM. You can see in the upper corner, it was approved in October 2018. And that it specifically talks about OHV trail maintenance, roller coaster, maintenance and trail features such as boulders, riprap replacement, and it was good through 2020 for this particular agreement. I will say, prior to that, Mitch Owens was the outdoor rec planner, and he really just said, you guys take care of it. This is an agreement. We don't really need to have any paperwork in regards to it. We've already established this is the trail. Stay within the footprint, keep the bypass, and take care of it. So from 2010 until 2018, that's what we did. Now, Chris Schaefer came to the office and he saw the trail and he was like, this is pretty awesome, but I would like to document the hours that you guys put into it. So we did, and the reason for that is when you do a grant through like RTP, you can leverage those hours to offset the match. The match is a 20% match, familiar, right? So I got multiple grants going on. I'm taking $50,000 to English Point for a non-motorized trail system, and then I also got another $15,000 coming through for a full-size trail brushing project. And then we're working on, as I'm also the president of the Friends of North Isle Trails, and so we are looking at buying a piece of this equipment, a smaller one for single track, and then also a Mini X to help the Forest Service. They don't have a trail cruiser right now, so we're really trying to keep the trails in good condition for the public.
Okay.
Just in general, for non-motorized and motorized.
Okay.
But just so you know, yes, volunteer agreement. There has been some discussion about the water crossings. They're where old bridges once were. And this is the email from Todd Higgins, Streams Channel Protection Specialist. Joe had him come out and had a visit with him out at the locations. And then he contacted the Trailblazers to let us know of what was going on with that. And he informed us that they're in perfect condition, and that they're registered, and that if we want any help, keep them in good shape, they'd be glad to help us. And it's only $20 to put another one in. So that was kind of the conversation, and then we asked for an email that we could, give to actually Josh in the past for the press. This is what he provided. Okay. And then also while I'm on the water topic, there's some discussion about the beavers and their beaver dam and that kind of thing. I did call Fish and Game to discuss that with them and how they perceive it. I spoke with Seth Altmeyer. He's the law enforcement officer for our area, and he basically said, we have issues with beaver all over the state. He gave me an example that ITA is trying to deal with beavers plugging culverts. And he said, Once you get everything established and handled, figured out one or the other, we'll easily issue a permit to remove them and no longer have that be an issue.
Okay.
And if you like his number, I can give that to you also. Okay, so this next section is some BLM information. We're gonna get into the what's going on in that side of this. I got some printed maps there in the back for you to reference. And of course you have the actual, currently what's the approved map from the 2007 RMP in front of you. And just to note, if you find this map right here, this map is from Shoshone County's website. And it basically lines out and follows the section of the West Fork Pine Creek Trail, following to section 15 in the recorded documents from 1909. And I can tell you personally that I've driven this with my Onyx on, and I also have the map from Onyx printed for you, and the GPS coordinates follow that multi-hundred years of map documentation on their own website virtually perfectly. There's a discussion about surveying it, so you know right where it is. I talked to HMH Engineering, and I don't think that would be an issue to make that happen. It's really not needed, especially with all the mapping and GPS coordinates and that kind of thing. But the trailways are not opposed to doing it. I think that it's very doable, and to make the county feel better, I think we can find a way to make that happen. Alright, so the first two pages here, again, I'm going into some BLM information. There's this discussion that BLM is saying the road is closed. Now, here's a legend on the map in front of you. If you notice, what they're saying is their statement is all unimproved roads are closed to the public for motorized travel. All of them. So if you look on that map in front of you, you'll see a lot of unimproved roads. They say all of those are closed to motorized access. The only road that is assigned to be closed is the West Fork Pine Creek Trail. Out of the thousands of miles that are on that map. Interesting enough, in their recreational management plan, they don't identify anything in that document for unimproved road. So they don't have a definition of the unimproved road. And historically, it's been open to motorized travel. Now, in the BLM handbook, they talk about components of a designated travel network. If you guys are on that page. Okay. Primitive, so there's three, there's only three. Road, primitive road, or trail. A primitive road is the closest thing that I can find in that would correlate to an unimproved road, and I'll show you where that kind of falls in place with the current RMP. It talks about a linear route managed for use by four-wheel drive or high clearance vehicles. These routes do not normally meet any BLM road design standards. And the trail is a similar description. Now, here is pictures of, and again, it's on the map there, but here's two pictures. And this one, you'll notice, is of the road that the trail road that we've been discussing for several years now. Does everybody have that?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, you don't have to. But you'll see that they labeled it as Pine Creek Road, and it's considered a highway, interestingly enough, through private property. And then when it meets BLM, they switch it to an unimproved road. And as you go further, you'll see like Colusa Creek Road there, and I'll talk about that in a minute here. So this other picture, this one's Highland Creek. Do you guys know where Highland Creek is, by any chance? Yes? Okay. So on that, they've identified that as a green, and that is designated road easement open year-round to all motorized vehicles. Now, if you notice, the green over here, this light green, that's Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
And so this goes up, and you'll notice it switches to an unimproved road, switches back to a green, switches back to an unimproved road through BLM, and then into Forest Service. This particular trail or road goes to what's called Trail 16. Anyone familiar with Trail 16? So, are they going to close access to Trail 16, one of the most coveted trails in North Idaho for 50 inch and less? No. Not even something they want to try to. But they're stating all unimproved roads are closed to motorized travel. It's simply not a realistic stance. So the next page here, this is going to be in this book that I have here, and this is the approved resource management plan. So if you look at action objective RC 1.5, you can read that, and I highlighted primitive road. It's the only thing you're only going to find in this book, primitive road. You're not going to find an improved road anywhere in it. And then it talks about providing improved road access to trailheads and primitive road and trail recreation routes throughout the area. The next page here, you got, which is the 53 there, RC Action 1.5.7. This talks about rock crawling, extreme four-wheel drive use. In the 2007 RMP, the Trailblazers worked extremely hard to get this wording into this document. And we thought that we did a great job. And in many ways, we could have done better. But I'll say, didn't know, didn't understand everything per se, how it works. And what it did do is it established the intent of what that area, was being designated for. If you on this picture of the map, you'll notice this is Middle Fork. This is the Middle Fork Trail right here. Is the direct access to it is the West Fork Pine Creek Trail, and then it right here goes along. It's almost for a mountain line, it's almost a straight line, right? So that's your perspective of what was kind of being worked on in 2010. Well, 2007 and so forth. Now in action 1.58, this is where Colusa Creek comes into play. This action specifically talks about it will be managed as a motorized route except for the portion that's in Crystal Lake, USA. Ironically, that's not even near this. I don't know why they have it there. It's not near this area, quite a ways away. Washouts will be repaired on the Coosa Creek Road, and it will be maintained as a connector ATV trail to the Portland St. Joe Bike Trail. That hasn't happened. They haven't done it. They haven't made it a priority. But in their recreational management plan or the resource management, it should have at this point. And then there at the bottom there, objective RC 1.7 talks about having this area for motorized roads and trail-related activities for adventure, exploration, and social group or family affiliation with front and mid-country forested mountain settings. So this next page is a really interesting page. This is the only piece inside the RMP that discusses the travel management plan. BLM has never done a travel management plan. This page here is basically talking about what kind of rules to follow doing a travel management plan. They haven't done one, they don't have it. The Blue Ribbon Coalition has verified that this is not a TMP, and BLM, no matter what FOIA I've done, they cannot provide a travel management plan. And so in this is the key piece here is in this picture, they label Pine Creek Road. We all can see that that's the West Fork Pine Creek Road. And they talk about recognize the critical importance of certain local transportation routes to BLM land and resource management activities by REPIN, recommending the following select routes be designated as federal land management highways. Pine Creek Road is one of those. And they do talk about East Fork Pine Creek Road on there also. And one of the things I want to note is West Fork Pine Creek Road has been used interchangeably throughout all documents, including the counties. How I found the 1909 recording was it was actually labeled in the documents as Pine Creek Road, and that's when I figured out that I needed to start looking at everything that was labeled Pine Creek to find that recording for West Fork Pine Creek. In the book, in the RMP, just talks about, this is just a little bit of definition, OHV vehicle, a general term referring to any motorized vehicle capable of operating on roads, trails, or designated areas that are not maintained. This includes motorcycles, all-terrain vehicles, dune buggies, and four-wheel drive vehicles. So now we're looking at, it says chapter 1, introduction and background. This is part of the current EA from the BLM that's up for public comment in the 13th of August. And in this particular page, BLM, although have adamantly tried to say in the past that they had no knowledge, nothing to do with creating the West Fork Pine Creek Trail or a roller coaster. They come pretty clean on here, which is, I was pretty excited to see that. And you're welcome to read it. They do talk about the West Fork Pine Creek motorized route. West Fork Pine Creek is just loaded with this thing. Partnering with Idaho Department of Recreation and the North Iowa Trailblazers. On a primitive road in the bottom of Pine Creek. They don't even talk about, laneways per se, or but they do mention once the laneways road was constructed to be the main access road, primarily for timber hauling into the West Fork Pine Creek, a series of excavated earth barriers, approximately 50, were placed on the West Fork Pine Creek route. again, not in the bottom, is up on the upper section, because the bottom is intended to stay open, mainly to access Coosa Creek and Mill Fork for the extreme cold activity. And then this next page is talking about alternative C, which the trailblazers do support, and most recreational folks do, and that's where we're able to continue to keep the trail and maintain the obstacles and that kind of thing that we've worked so many years to have. And as you can see on the next page, that alternative C does coincide with multiple actions in their recreational management plan. This last section, if you're ready, when you're okay. So now, obviously, we have our issues with BLM. I know they were invited to be here today. They're not. And the Blue Ribbon Coalition is happy to address them, and we will deal with that. This is also out of their handbook from BLM, and this talks about what RS-2477 is and how it can apply. This first page talks about how any RS-2477 route, once identified, basically default takes care of anything that BLM has ever done, or Forest Service. It works both ways. It's a government agreement that's offered to the state or county to accept. And when the commission in 1909 designated, declared that route as a public highway, they accepted that position on RS-2477. So currently it does identify as a RS-2477 route. And to just go a little further, this next section, this next couple pages, they are actually a internal discussion from Joanne K. Miller. She's a realty specialist for BLM, and she talks about how RS-2477 is applied across a public road that goes federal lands and government bodies. I kind of want to tell you guys that you have a lot of power in this situation, really. The recreational community really is in hopes that we can work together and keep this trail in great condition. I can get funds from multiple government grants sources to maintain it, keep it in good condition, keep it open. That's on that note, like the recreational trails program grant fund is a budget of about $1.4 million a year. This last cycle, there was not enough motorized grant requests to keep it solid. So we lost about $100,000 funding 1.3. And there's a 50% better situation that fund will triple. It's very easy to get funds for motorized use. So we need more grants for motorized for the state. It's a federal program, and especially at Fisher we need a lot more. And you guys have some of the more world-class trails in the Silver Valley. People travel from all over to ride single track. And the Forest Service has a lot of them, and they can't keep up with their maintenance, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. And there's huge opportunity for recreation in our area, and it's North Idaho in general, statewide, but we have world-class trails. The Forest Service needs help. So there's a lot of opportunity that way. I'd like for you guys to consider looking at this as it is an RST 477 off right now, but it would be much easier if the county were to support that in regards to the discussion with BLM. And we could make a lot of this trouble disappear. But if you don't, I understand. I'm just hoping that you might consider it. So that's my spiel.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, do we have the list here? Okay. How long do you guys have, minute-wise? Do you guys, 2 minutes? 2 minutes person? Okay, that'd be great. Okay. First one coming up is Don Winston, Kingston, Idaho. Go ahead and just state your name and where you're from.
Don Winston, Kingston, Idaho. Okay, well, we certainly heard a lot of talk and a lot with some smoke and mirrors. However, for me, fundamentally, everything comes down to one main issue. Who's going to pay for all this? The taxpayers of this county cannot afford to maintain what we already have that needs maintaining. The people who are demanding that this road, which is a trail, and frankly, in 1909, anything designated a public highway was dealing with horse and buggies, not motorized vehicles, and certainly not the kind that these guys are driving. But, be that as it may, when the taxpayers of this county have to pick up the tab for people who are not residents here, who are not paying into our county coffers, and we have to provide road maintenance, police, fire, and trash, all of these other things that are going to be required of Shoshone County are being required, demanded, by people who don't even live here and don't have any skin in the game. What we have done here is to try and make a beautiful area for people to visit, but to visit respectfully, but to visit us and leave the place in better shape than when they got here, hopefully. What we see happening, and you can call it whatever you want, West Fork, Pine Creek, whatever. What we see happening up there is a disaster waiting to happen, not just environmentally, but logistically. I don't know what is going to be the reason that is given for a group with this many grants and permissions that they couldn't go take that same money and buy their own chunk of land, maybe in Shoshone County, where then they will pay into the county coffers, and turn this into something that's of benefit to all of us, not just to their little group. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Thank you. Okay, we have Joe Avery is next. Please state your name and address.
Joe Avery, I live on West Fork Pine Creek. I thought this was mostly just about the lower road, is what I presumed when I came to this meeting. And all I'd like to say is, yeah, I get blamed for a lot of stuff, and I'm the guy who blocked the road off, but I give them access on another road. They have another good road to drive on. That's the way they took all their equipment in when they built the roller coaster, and that's their access point. And they talk about getting these grants and stuff for this other road. the good road that goes to the roller coaster now is only maintained by one entity. It's a timber company, and they put a lot of money in it. You can drive up there, you can see where they put gravel on it and everything else. Why can't some of these grants that they talk about be for that road? Make that, make that a better road. I guess that's about all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Jan Hignum?
Jan Higdon, Pinehurst, legal researcher. While we appreciate Mr. Loutzenhiser's concerns, 99% of what he said regards BLM, federal lands, and the county has no jurisdiction whatsoever over them. The road through the commissioner minutes was created in 1909. However, RS 2477, the county didn't tell the federal government by the time the federal lands were reserved and put into the national forest, then they have to go through a permitting process. So even in 1909, if you wanted to have an RS 2477, but it's just an easement. You have an easement, it's federal land. So, anyway, all that stuff is new to me. In 2021, Mr. Loutzenhiser and Dudula met with the commissioners. They basically wanted the road to be validated. We started then. Mike Fitzgerald, chairman, said before we can validate, we have to designate it, indicating that it's not a road. Then we go. The BLM, and then the Supreme Court case, the Supreme District rehearing and hearing, those are all on 2 parcels of land, disputed segments, Joe's and Hancock Landing Right. So that should be all we're talking about here. But in 99, through a decision notice which overrides the 2010 paperwork, they closed down the lower road and created Langway. And then at the hearing, they said it's closed down to motorized. And then in an email after that, they have no interest in ever making it motorized. So anything after Manulife property, you can't control it. They had a lot of complaints registered. I did a PRR with DEQ and Carter got back with me. And in 21, we took a tour with BLM, DEQ, the timber companies, and some other people, all up from the lower road to the roller coaster. Carter was there. And one of the things she reported to Mr. Loutzenhiser, not us, was the only place where that seemed to be a problem was at the bottom, where the trail traveled some distance up the side channel where there had been a beaver dam and there were trout present in the pool where the vehicles drive when visiting. So that's a west slope cutthroat trout, that's the word. Sensitive species, that's where they spawn and rear. And when they drive through it, they're reckoning the spawning and the rearing of a sensitive species. And the beaver dam is huge now because the road's getting closed. Todd Higgins, he mentioned, he agreed with Kaja's report, except there were signs of Jeeps driving up the channel and side channels when I walked in. Here is that's the road with the legal description on the back page of what the road is. Now, Connie Holmquist and Jerry White said you can't make a road out of that legal description. It's highlighted in orange. Starts at a confluence near the east of West Forks of Pine Creek in section 19, which is incorrect. It's in 2019 on a hillside. And generally southerly along West Fork Pine Creek to Brush's Cabin. You can't make a road out of that. They never surveyed it. You can't make a road out of that. And southerly is anything below east and below west.
I think
So that's the road that,
kind of running out of time, but some did.
okay, that's it.
Is that it? Thank you very much.
I oppose this. I think you should do an abandonment hearing or turn it to non-motorized use.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Ron Wood.
I'm getting used to this place. My name's Ron Wood. I live at West Fork of Pine Creek. Been there for 50 years, okay? I'm opposed to that road for the same reasons I've been the last couple of years opposed to it. First of all, it has a negative impact on the environment. And having been there 50 years, I've seen that road change many times because of floods. But I have a real opposition to people running vehicles up and down through the street. And even though the gentleman here said there was 100-foot away, that's his 100 foot and my 100 feet are a lot different, because I've been up there and I've seen water run up off of their so-called roller coaster into the creek. So I'm opposed to it for the environmental reasons first. Second, again, same reason, I'm opposed to it because it's going to cost the taxpayers, and has cost the taxpayers, a lot of money. How many times have we met on this thing? You guys have better time, better use of your time than to come and hear the same thing over and over again. So I think this thing should be put to an end, and simply, it shouldn't be a road, okay? And as far as the original road, where it was supposed to go on, there's a lot of discussion. It's on the hillside, and now it's down in the bottom, and I've seen a change, depending upon the flood. But the taxpayers in this county should not be paying for people coming in and using our resources while we have to pay for them. And I know he talked about grants, but remember, beware of Greeks bearing gifts.
Thank you. Hal Bruner.
My name is Harold Brunner. I live at 2952 West Fork Pine Creek Road. And this trail that's being presented to us is a public trail. I have some concerns about people using it. If we're going to keep it as a public trail, I would expect that, and our guys in green here are stretched pretty thin on this, but I'm going to expect enforcement of insurance, registration, licensing. There's a 96 dB muffler requirement at 0.5 meter. There should be spark arresters on these things, and they shouldn't be intoxicated. And I've walked up that trail, and you can follow it by the Bud Light cans that they've thrown out along the route. And it may not be the trailblazers, but it's the public that's using it. So that's my concern at this point. If you're going to use it, you need to use it legally. And I'm really concerned about the possibility of a fire starting up in that area. It's south of us, and the wind comes from the south. It would blow straight up the Pine Creek all the way to this town if something were to get going there in the middle of August.
Thank you. Eileen Crowley.
Okay. So, I'm a Jeeper, but I Jeep the Rubicon.
and mow off. I've never, ever seen such destruction on a road in my life. That's not what Jeepers do. When I went down there with Joe Avery and several other people, I was horrified. And I would never take my Jeep down there, ever. Go up the mountains. Go higher up. Ask BLM
We
for
need
permission.
to make sure you address the board.
I know.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really upset about this, sorry. Especially as somebody who has a Jeep my whole life. You take care of the land. You protect it, you do everything you can to leave it the way you came in. You don't take equipment in and gouge out the earth and create erosion problems. And I'm sorry, you don't go get permits to take beaver out of their habitat. So, and as what other people before me said, this is a poor county. It's a poor county, and you guys are spread thin. Fire department, our sheriff. If anything happens to them out there, we pay for it. So, I strongly oppose this. They come from areas where they've got money. I'm a Jeeper. I know how expensive Jeeps are. Very expensive to maintain. Go take your Jeeps, go to Washington, go to Montana, because that's where a lot of you guys are coming in from. Kootenai County. Put your money together and buy your own property to destroy it. Stop destroying our county.
Thank you. All right, David Giberson.
My name is David Gergelson. I live in Hidalgo. I work for Manulife, one of the parcel owners right behind Joe Avery. I also oppose, same reasons as have been stated environmentally from a tax standpoint. I was involved in a Kootenai County validation hearing for what they call Black Rock Road. Time frames were exactly the same. The names involved of the people who were doing the work on the ground were exactly the same. There was a viewer's report, there was a survey, there was receipts of expenses paid for the survey. We have none of that for this one. I don't know what else happened. I know the two situations are similar and the evidence is different. We use the trail and the road, the terminology relatively synonymous. They are not the same. The road that used to exist, I was involved in the decision-making process to construct the road where it exists now, because after that, the old road at the bottom washed out. It was environmentally not the right thing to do. The EA that was referenced in 1999, part of the Kelly humps that were put in the top end of that road were part of the EA to try to close that old road system off. Those of you who are familiar with the new road know there is an inordinate amount of gates on it. Part of those gates were because we were trying, that was part of the whole decision-making process in that 1999 EA. If you read through it, you'll see the track record there. The roads are not the road and the trail are not in the same location. It's part of the reason why the survey would be very, very helpful. The old road stayed on it'd be the west and the north side of the creek. It did not cross the creek. The trail crosses the creek multiple times. There was no crossing until you got way up above. legally, the BLM has been asked multiple times through the channels, I can't remember the right names, to provide the documentation for the construction of the roller coaster during that 2010 period, and they have not. So I don't know if they don't have it, or they're not willing to provide it, or they didn't follow the proper channels. Again, the part that's pertinent is the lower two pieces, but it's all involved. And I would just also point out, we've heard a lot about maps, depictions of maps, GPS. I make my living trying to match that on the ground. A map is somebody's depiction until you have a survey. And when you have a survey, it pins it to a location on the ground, and we don't.
Thank you. Lydia Bailey.
My name is Lydia Bailey from Hello. Mr. Loutzenhiser is saying that it's a public road. We know it's a public road, but I say that it's not a public road because I cannot drive with my car down there. Even when I drive with my side-by-side drive down there, I'm afraid. There's a big rocks in the middle. I need a backup because I cannot go around and drive out again. And then next to me is a big hole. I'm afraid I'm falling in there. And then it is true, if something is happened, there's no cell service at all. How you can contact somebody? Helicopter or what? There's no cell service there. And it is dangerous. It can cost life. That's all I would like to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Kathy Nestor.
I'm Kathy Nestor from Pine Creek, from Pinehurst. And my biggest concern is I haven't seen a single study, drawing, or anything about the impact on the neighborhood of all these Jeeps driving through. In the last 3.5 years, in the top half mile of our street, our road, we've gotten 11 children under the age of 10. And in the bottom half, in the first mile of the road, I know we've gotten probably about 20. Lots of young families are moving in with very young children, and I'm really concerned about their safety because we all know young children aren't going to sit there and go, oh, let's stop and look who's coming. They just barrel through because that's what kids do. Not one study has been made, not one study on asking all the neighbors. I have asked all the neighbors on West Fork Pine Creek Road, and there is not one that supports this activity, not one. But no one's done a study. No one seems to care what the neighbors think, and that is my primary concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corrine Dose.
Hi, well, everything I'm carrying those from Pine Creek Road. Everything that I was going to say has been said, but I just want to reiterate. I've been up there to I've gone through the lower half of the road. It's very pretty. There's lots of wildlife. It was hard for me when I got cut off because we used to like to take our four-wheeler through there. I'm really glad there is an access now because it's just beautiful, and it's a really good use of the land. I went 2 weeks ago and tried to go down the roller coaster side. Last year we were able to do it. It's in such bad condition now that you can't take an ATV down there. I got probably 20-25 feet, and we decided to turn around. However, I've gone down there many times, and the road goes for a long time alongside the creek, and if it didn't go alongside the creek, why would you need a permit to move the beavers? So that really, it's not congruent. Also, I read in an article that quoted the use of the land of Mr. Lutzinger. Diameter or anything like that. But he said that it would also, the opening the road would also help for the huckleberries and the hunters and the fishermen. Once the Jeep Club gets hold of a property like that, it's destroyed. Nobody else can go on that land. So there's really using that land for a very small number of people, and it's very disruptive. And another issue too that I see going on is that because once the Jeeps go up there to use that area, they're using other roads in the area, and there's destruction on other roads, and people start closing off their properties. So it impacts us negatively and the whole community negatively, and that they don't have access to other lands, because once the destruction starts on other lands, they do close off roads and areas. So that's something that someone hasn't mentioned. And I too am wondering what we have to do to close this topic. It seems like we're in the same place we were 2 years ago. So how do we stop the same conversation over and over again? So that's what I would like to know too.
Well, thank you. Any comments from the board? Okay. We thank you all for your participation, and meeting's adjourned. Thank you.